So I made a tweet today that it's generally how you would start out a video where you're probably going to apologize for something. But in this case, it was a tweet as I was looking into a story for Newswave tomorrow that has a bit more information to it than just what I'm going to focus in on here today, as it has to do with Persona 5 Royal. Now, we know that just launched across multiple platforms, which includes another release on PlayStation, and unfortunately there was no upgrade path to it, but a lot of people were honing in on the Nintendo Switch release, considering people have been asking for a Switch version of Persona 5 for a long time, and it seemed like it made a lot of sense to do so. Well, we have our first indication as to how it's selling on the Switch, and while it is kind of I would say a small sample size, I do believe it gives us an idea as to how things are going to be going forward, and it makes me wonder if Sega and Atlus are kind of getting the message. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, and if you're new to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Let's head over here first to Nintendo Life. These would be for the UK sales charts. Now, UK sales charts cover physical sales overall, so over-the-counter sales at retail and online sales, I believe, as well, but it doesn't count digital sales, so in this case, on the Nintendo eShop. Well, we did have a split here that they even called impressive here, obviously, on Nintendo Life, but 79% of the sales were on the Switch for Persona 5 Royal. And again, it makes sense, but this just being one market in the UK, we'll have to see a bit more as to how things do going forward, especially, as an example, in Japan. We'll have hard numbers to take a look at there. But that did push Persona 5 Royal up to a pretty good spot, I would say, for a debut, considering this game has released multiple times now, but it coming in at number 6. In fact, it jumped over Splatoon 3, and you can even say Horizon Forbidden West, which is being packaged in with, a majority of PlayStation 5 systems. Essentially, it looks like the Switch version of Persona 5 Royal was the one to get in the UK and was one of the big driving factors behind this game's release. And like I said, there's been a lot of requests for this game to come to the Switch for years now, and it's finally happened, and it looks like, well, Switch owners are showing up to buy the game. Now, the other split was we had PS5 17%, and then the Xbox Series X and S 4%. The Xbox, I know, gets beaten down a lot when it comes to JRPG support. I will at least point out, though, that the game is on Game Pass, and we know that there is quite a bit of data showing that sales are skewed heavily on the Xbox platform towards digital, so I don't know if this is an indication as to there being no JRPG support on the platform, but the reason I wanted to bring up the idea of Persona 5 Royal doing so well on the Switch is because we're going to be coming up on Persona 6 probably in the near future. I almost wonder if they were trying to reveal it during this, like, there was like a year-long anniversary or something for the series, and that was going to be the big climax of the whole thing, the final grand reveal. Persona 6 is indeed in development. Most of us understand it is coming at some point. With the success of Persona 5 Royal, it'd be weird to end the series there, considering it's done so well for Atlus and Sega. But Sega did push Persona 4 Golden to PC not too long ago, and they were surprised, I would say, by the results. At least they were caught off guard. We've talked about this quite a bit, and in fact, in that tweet that I posted that I think maybe didn't land as much because I didn't have quite as much context behind it, but essentially with Persona 4 Golden, they moved it to PC. It was a good price at $20. For Persona 4 Golden, that's a really good pickup. The amount of time you can get out of it and the quality of that game. And the port was pretty good, too. It was a Vita game, so the system requirements weren't going to be very high or anything like that. But nonetheless, the question at the time from investors, this was a couple of years ago, was that Persona 4 Golden has been selling well on Steam. Do you have any plans to sell newly released games on Steam as well? And their answer was, we remastered Persona 4 Golden, a title previously sold on the PlayStation Vita, Acclaim, and released it for sale on Steam this fiscal year. Because of the game's critical acclaim and its low selling price, sales are much stronger than expected. We will continue to actively promote porting previously released titles to Steam and new platforms. We're also negotiating with platform holders for new games in the future, and we're considering ways to sell under favorable conditions for each title. Among them are measures such as preparing PC versions of the titles from the beginning with multi-platform releases in mind. I almost think that release in particular was them just testing the market to see how people would respond on other platforms, and, well, the PC community came through, and Persona 4 Golden really seemed to get Sega thinking about other platforms for the series. By the way, Persona 5 The Royal on PC for Steam, I mean, was up there as like one of the top games in terms of the top selling charts. So that's doing really well on PC. And it does make me think going forward, we could see this entire series just become completely multi-platform. Like, no more like, oh, is this going to eventually find its way to PC or Switch or whatever Nintendo has next for their platform going forward. No, I kind of feel like Persona 6 could actually show up and just have a bunch of different systems in that end card for where you'll be able to buy it and play it. The only thing that could maybe trip this whole thing up is if Sony does indeed come in and do what they've done basically this entire generation and even last generation, which is coming with some sort of timed exclusivity or even work to fund a good chunk of development in order to keep it to the PlayStation platform. They've said before that they see Persona as a very important series for Sony, and if you think about it, this is the first time that Persona has gone elsewhere outside of the PlayStation family of systems, and that might be another reason why it's doing so well on other platforms, because it's kind of this historic release. And remember, Persona 3 and Persona 4 Golden will be heading to other platforms next year as well. It's going to be going into Game Pass even. So a lot of people are certainly checking out Persona that maybe wouldn't have. To me, this is setting up for a huge, huge reveal and release for Persona 6, especially if it ends up being multi-platform, which is pretty much the reason why I want to see Sega and Atlus realize how big the potential is for Persona, because I like the series and I would like to see it go to the next level. And having it on all these different platforms right out of the gate would probably do that for the series. Now, Atlus, they do some weird things sometimes, and for the longest time, we thought Persona 5 had some sort of tie to PlayStation with an exclusivity contract or something, and obviously, as we're seeing now, not the case. So I wonder if Atlus and Sega have kind of gotten the message here as they're seeing sales roll in, that Persona really has a lot of potential going forward as a multi-platform game immediately, especially on PC, where Persona 4 Golden is kind of what set this entire thing in motion. But hey, at this point, we just gotta kind of hang out and wait for Persona 6 to get revealed, and maybe that's something that happens next year. And at that point, we'll see if it's just a PlayStation game or if there are a bunch of logos like Steam, Nintendo, and even Xbox with that end card. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.